Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. It is the third lecture on the physiology of respiratory system. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the mechanics of pulmonary ventilation. What we are going to study in mechanics of pulmonary ventilation are basically two topics. The first one are the muscles of respiration, which bring about the movements of the thoracic cage, and we are going to talk about the mechanisms by which we breathe air into and out of the lungs, which is the process of pulmonary ventilation. And in the end, we are going to talk about the important questions from the topics that we have covered. We are going to discuss the two topics, that are the respiratory muscles and the mechanics or the mechanisms of pulmonary ventilation together. Here we will just briefly discuss that the respiratory muscles are divided into two groups, a group of inspiratory muscles and a group of expiratory muscles. So two groups of muscles are there, inspiratory muscles and expiratory muscles. Now starting with the topic, that is mechanics of respiration. And remember, we are going to talk about the muscles as well as the mechanisms of pulmonary ventilation side by side. One point that you must remember is that lungs are themselves passive in nature, and they expand or contract, or we can say the movements of the lungs are secondary to the movements of the thoracic wall, and it is the contraction of the respiratory muscles which bring about the movement of the thoracic wall. I am going to repeat this point as this is very important and it's very basic in making the concepts about the mechanics of respiration. That lungs themselves are passive in nature and they will just follow the movement of the thoracic wall, and the movements of the thoracic wall are brought about by the contraction of respiratory muscles, of which we have two groups, the inspiratory muscles and the expiratory muscles. Now why we divide the muscles of respiration into two groups? It's simply because of the fact that respiration, it consists of two phases, the inspiration and expiration. So that's why the muscles which contract or which help in inspiration are the inspiratory muscles, and those muscles which help in expiration are called as expiratory muscles. Now this diagram here in this corner is just to show you that lungs are present within the thoracic cavity that we have talked about in the previous lectures as well, and the lungs are passive in nature. They are made up of elastic tissue and they will just follow the movement of the thoracic cage. So when thoracic cage expand, the lungs are going to expand, and when the thoracic cage returns to its original volume or the original position, the lungs are also going to resume their original volume. Now inspiration, it can be divided into two types. Quiet inspiration, which is also known as normal breathing. Now this is the breathing at rest. Now the other type of inspiration is forceful inspiration. Now forceful inspiration is the respiratory activity when we are doing some physical work, like when we are doing exercise. Now when we exercise, the respiratory activity is increased, it becomes forceful. So likewise inspiration is forceful during some physical activity. So we have two types of inspiration: quiet inspiration or the normal breathing, and it is the breathing at rest. And the other type is forceful inspiration, which is the breathing or inspiration during some sort of physical work or physical activity such as exercise. Now the muscles of inspiration likewise can be divided into the major muscles of inspiration. As you can see in this diagram, the major muscle of inspiration are those muscles which bring about the process of inspiration during quiet breathing, while accessory muscles of inspiration are those muscles which contract and play their role only during forceful inspiration. So, inspiratory muscles are of two types: muscles of normal breathing, normal inspiration, which are the major muscles of inspiration, and the accessory muscles of inspiration, which come into play when there is forceful inspiration. Now we are going to see what are those muscles. Now major muscles of inspiration, these contract during every inspiration, and their relaxation causes passive expiration. Now these muscles include the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. I am repeating, the major muscles of inspiration which contract in every inspiration are the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. And the accessory muscles of inspiration which contract only during forceful inspiration are basically the neck muscles. Three muscles are important in this regard. These include the sternocleidomastoid, sternocleidomastoid, the scalenus muscle, and there is one more muscle not shown here, that is the serratus anterior. So there are three accessory muscles of inspiration which contract during forceful breathing are sternocleidomastoid, scalenus muscle, and serratus anterior. Now on this side of this diagram are shown the muscles of expiration. As we just talked that during quiet breathing, the process of expiration is passive. When we say it is passive, it means it does not involve contraction of muscles. It occurs because the inspiratory muscles relax and there is elastic recoil of the lungs. But during forceful breathing, the process of expiration also becomes active. It means there is contraction of the muscles during process of expiration. Now the muscles of forceful expiration, again there are two groups, the abdominal muscles and there are internal intercostal muscles. These two group of muscles, when they contract, they help in expiration. This is the diaphragm. This dashed line basically shows the location of the diaphragm, and these are the external intercostal muscles and these are the internal intercostal muscles, and this is the rectus abdominis, which is representing one of the abdominal muscles, basically representing us the abdominal muscles which are involved in active expiration. Again, the groups of muscles of inspiration and during expiration. Here we can see the accessory muscles, which are the neck muscles. We have sternocleidomastoid, scalene muscles, and we have the serratus muscle. And then we have the principal muscles which are involved during quiet breathing, as well as during forceful breathing. These include the external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. External intercostals and the diaphragm. And in quiet breathing, expiration is a passive process. Elastic recoil of the lungs is there. And during active breathing, there is contraction of the internal intercostal muscles as well as there is contraction of abdominal muscles. First, we are going to study the mechanism of quiet inspiration, and then we will talk about the mechanism of forceful inspiration. So, quiet inspiration, it is brought about by the contraction of diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. Now, diaphragm, it is a dome-shaped muscle which forms a partition between the thoracic and the abdominal cavity. We can say that it separates the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity. The dome of the diaphragm, it faces upward, or we can say it is curved upward, as we just saw in the previous diagram. This dashed line, this dashed line is showing us the diaphragm, and we can see it's a dome which is facing upward, which is curved upward, and it is a partition between the thoracic and the abdominal cavity. Now, this diaphragm is innervated by phrenic nerve, and it is a major muscle of inspiration. About 70% of quiet inspiration is brought about by contraction of diaphragm. Now, what happens due to contraction of diaphragm? When diaphragm contracts, it descends downward. Its dome is flattened and it causes an increase in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. During quiet breathing, the diaphragm descends about 1.5 centimeters in the downward direction. So this will increase the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. Now, this increase in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity also causes the lungs to expand. Now, we will talk about the other group of muscles, that are external intercostal muscles. Now, external intercostal muscles are attached to the ribs and are innervated by the intercostal nerves. Now, contraction of external intercostal muscles, it brings about two effects. It causes two effects. Number one, when there is contraction of the external intercostal muscles, it will cause the ribs to which they are attached to move upward and outward. Now, this upward and outward movement of the ribs is called as the bucket handle movements, because it resembles the movement of the handle of the bucket when you are lifting it up. Now, bucket handle movement increases the transverse diameter of the thoracic cavity. I will show you this in the diagrams in the next slides as well. Again, I am repeating that contraction of the external intercostal muscles produces two effects. Number one, it causes the ribs to move upward and outward. This upward and outward movement of the ribs is called as bucket handle movement, and this increases the transverse diameter of the thoracic cavity. Now the second effect which is produced by the contraction of the external intercostal muscles is that the sternum, it moves forwards and upward. This forward and upward movement of the sternum is called as pump handle movement because it resembles the movement of the handle of a pump, handle of the hand pump. Now this pump handle movement increases the anteroposterior diameter of the thoracic cavity. Here I am going to sum up the effects of contraction of the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. The diaphragm contracts to cause an increase in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity, while external intercostal muscles contract to increase the transverse as well as the anteroposterior diameter of the thoracic cavity. Now, due to contraction of these muscles, there is expansion of the thoracic cage. Now, expansion of the thoracic cage causes a decrease in the pleural pressure. It becomes more negative than it was at the beginning of inspiration. In the previous lecture, we just discussed that at the beginning of the inspiration, the pleural pressure is -5 centimeters of water. During inspiration, as there is expansion of the thoracic cage, the pleural pressure will further drop, or it will become more negative to a value of -7.5 centimeters of water during quiet breathing. Now lungs will follow the movement of the thoracic wall. Lungs will follow the movement of thoracic wall. Why? Because these are attached to the thoracic wall by means of pleura. The pleura, as we discussed in the previous lecture, it has two coverings or two layers, the parietal pleura and the visceral pleura. This is one membrane having two layers. So this layer is basically attaching the lungs to the thoracic wall. So as the thoracic wall is expanding due to contractions of the muscles of inspiration, lungs are going to follow the movement of the thoracic wall and they will expand as well. Now as the lungs expand, the intrapulmonary volume increases. They expand, their size increases, the volume of the lung is going to increase. And we know that there is an inverse relationship between the intrapulmonary volume and the pressure inside the lungs. So as intrapulmonary volume increases, the pressure inside the lungs decreases. And the pressure inside the lungs is called as alveolar pressure. Now alveolar pressure decreases to -1 centimeter of water. Now this causes a gradient to be formed between the atmosphere and the lung alveoli. The pressure is more in the atmosphere and it is less in the lung alveoli. So this will cause the movement of air into the lungs. That is, air is inhaled into the lungs, which is the process of inspiration. Now with this, the process of inspiration is complete. During normal breathing, about 500 ml of air enters the lung during process of inspiration. Now coming to the forceful inspiration. Inspiration becomes forceful when we perform some physical work. And in forceful inspiration, there is contraction of accessory muscles of inspiration in addition to the major muscles, which are diaphragm and external intercostal muscles. Now, during forceful inspiration, the contraction of the diaphragm also become more forceful, and it may descend as much as 7 centimeters into the downward direction. So this will cause a greater increase in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. Moreover, there is contraction of the neck muscles, which are scalene, serratus anterior and sternocleidomastoid. Now, contraction of these muscles cause an increase in the size of thoracic cavity in the upper part. So, upper part of the thoracic cavity is increased in size as well during forceful inspiration. And during forceful inspiration, there is a greater decrease in the pleural pressure, and there is a greater decrease in the alveolar pressure, and air will move into the lungs. Now this diagram shows you the pump handle and the bucket handle movements that we just discussed. First we are going to talk about the pump handle movement. Now this is the vertebral column, these are the ribs, and this is the sternum. Now when there is contraction of the external intercostal muscles, this will cause the sternum, just 1 minute, so this is it. So this will cause the sternum to move upward and forwards. It will move upward and forwards. So this is a hand pump, and this is the movement of the handle of this pump. So this movement of the sternum upward and forwards movement, it resembles the pump handle movements, and this increases the anteroposterior diameter of the thoracic cavity. The other movement that we discussed was the bucket handle movement. This is the handle of the bucket. When you try to lift a bucket, the handle moves upward and it becomes in transverse position. Same is the movements of the ribs due to contraction of the external intercostal muscles. Normally the ribs are slanting downward like this. Contraction of the external intercostal muscles cause elevation of these ribs. Now they are elevated, they move upward and outward. So this is just like the movement of the bucket handle, and this increases the transverse diameter of the thoracic cavity. Now this slide shows us the contraction of the muscles of inspiration and change in the size of thoracic cavity due to the contraction of the muscles. Here we can see the diaphragm, dome shaped muscle present between the thoracic and the abdominal cavity. The dome is facing upward. These are the external intercostal muscles. Now you can see in the before inspiration, the ribs are slanting downward, and when there is contraction of these external intercostal muscles, this causes elevation of the ribs, increasing the transverse side to side diameter of the thoracic cavity. And you can see the position of sternum here before the process of inspiration begins. It is facing backward. Now due to contraction of external intercostals, this sternum is also moved upward and outward, and this is the pump handle movement. And this increases the anteroposterior front to back diameter of the thoracic cavity. Now coming to the diaphragm, you can see this is the diaphragm when it is contracted. This was the original position before contraction of the diaphragm. So as it contracts, it moves downward. Its dome is flattened so that the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity is increased. Now as the thoracic cavity is expanding, the lungs will follow the thoracic cavity and they will also expand, and this will cause a drop in the intra-alveolar pressure, causing the air to flow into the lungs. Now the same mechanism is described in form of a flow chart of the quiet breathing. So quickly we will go through it. Diaphragm and inspiratory, that are the external intercostals. Muscle contract, expansion of the thorax. There is drop in the intrapulmonary pressure, and this is the intrapleural pressure. Intrapleural pressure becomes more subatmospheric. There is increase in the transpulmonary pressure and the lungs expand. And there is, due to expansion of the lungs, there is increase in the volume of the lungs and alveolar pressure is going to drop. It will become subatmospheric, which will cause the air to flow into the lungs. Now coming to the process of expiration. Like we have discussed the process of inspiration in two parts, that is the quiet inspiration and forceful inspiration. Similarly, we are going to study the process of expiration in two steps or two parts. First, we are going to talk about the expiration during quiet breathing, and then we will talk about the process of expiration during forceful breathing. In normal breathing, the process of expiration occurs by passive process. As I already told you, by passive process we mean that it does not involve the contraction of muscles. As the inspiratory signal from the brainstem stops, there is relaxation of the diaphragm, as well as there is relaxation of external intercostal muscles. Now, as the diaphragm relaxes, it returns to its original position, reducing the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. And as the external intercostal muscles relax, the elevated rib cage is going to fall because of the force of gravity. This reduces the size of thoracic cavity not only in the anteroposterior dimension but also in the transverse dimension. Now what will happen? The thoracic cage will return to its original volume. Now this will compress the lungs, and the lungs are going to recoil to the original volume because they are made up of elastic tissue. And we know that elastic tissue, it stretches when there is a force pulling it, and when there is no force to keep it stretched, the elastic tissue is going to recoil. So as there is relaxation of the muscles of inspiration, the thoracic cage is coming back to the original volume, and this is going to cause compression of the lungs, and the lungs will also recoil to the original volume. Now this will cause a decrease in the intrapulmonary volume, and this will lead to a increase in the alveolar pressure. As the volume decreases, the pressure increases. So volume is decreasing and alveolar pressure will become positive. It becomes greater than atmospheric pressure to a value of +1 centimeter of water. Now this causes the gradient to be formed in the reverse direction as compared to the gradient formed during inspiration. In inspiration, the pressure gradient is established from atmosphere into the lungs. And during expiration, the pressure gradient is established from the lung alveoli to the atmosphere. Higher pressure in the lung alveoli plus 1 centimeter of water as compared to the atmospheric pressure. So this will cause the air to move out of the lungs. It will cause the air to flow or move out of the lungs, which is the process of expiration. Now during process of expiration, 500 ml of air leaves the lung when a person is breathing normally. That is, the same amount of air leaves the lung that we have inhaled during inspiration. So this is the process of this is the process of expiration during quiet breathing. Now this diagram shows us the process of expiration during quiet breathing. Here is the diaphragm. As it relaxes, it arches upward, and as there is relaxation of the external intercostals, the ribs and the sternum, they will return to original position. Volume of the thoracic cage will decrease. It will compress the lung to a smaller volume, and the pressure inside the lung is going to increase, and air will be expelled out of the lungs into the atmosphere, which is the process of expiration. Now we will move on to the process of forceful expiration. Now forceful expiration is an active process. It involves the contraction of muscles. There are two groups of muscles we have already discussed: the abdominal muscles present in the wall of the abdomen, and we have the internal intercostal muscles. Now what is the effect of contraction of these muscles? Now contraction of abdominal muscles increase the intra-abdominal pressure. This increase in intra-abdominal pressure exerts an upward force on the diaphragm, which further reduces the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. Then it is during passive expiration. There is another effect of contraction of abdominal muscles, and that is the contraction of the abdominal muscles also pulls the ribs downward. Now the lungs are compressed and air will be expelled out of the lungs. So this is the contribution of abdominal muscles in forceful expiration. Now coming to the role of internal intercostal muscles. The contraction of internal intercostal muscles decrease the front to back and side to side dimension of the thoracic cavity by flattening the ribs and causing the backward movement of the sternum, or we can say flattening of the sternum. So the dimensions of the thoracic cavity in front to back, side to side dimension is decreased due to contraction of internal intercostals, and due to contraction of abdominal muscles it will cause a decrease in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity, and this will cause a greater compression of the lungs and a greater increase in the intra-alveolar pressure, and air will be expelled out of the lungs. Now with this, the process of expiration is complete. Now we are going to see this process diagrammatically. This is the process of passive expiration, that is during normal or quiet breathing. It is just because of the elastic recoil of the lungs when the diaphragm is relaxing, and it will return to its original position. and the relaxation of the external intercostal muscles will cause the ribs and the sternum to return to the resting position, and this will cause the air to be expelled out of the lungs. Now, during active expiration, the abdominal muscle contraction will cause increased intra-abdominal pressure, which will push this diaphragm upward further. And it will also cause a pulling down effect on the ribs, and the contraction of the internal intercostal muscles will cause the ribs to be flattened downward, and also it will cause the sternum to be flattened, which will reduce the anteroposterior and side to side dimension of the thoracic cavity. So it is the flow chart showing the process of expiration. Now, diaphragm and the inspiratory intercostal muscles stop contracting, means they relax. There is recoil of the chest wall, that is the thoracic cavity. The intrapleural pressure, it will move back to the pre-inspiratory value. Transpulmonary pressure gradient will also move back towards pre-inspiratory value. The lungs will recoil. The intrapulmonary volume decreased, and the intra-alveolar pressure becomes greater than the atmospheric pressure, and air flows out of the lungs. Now, this is the last slide. Here we have a comparison of inspiration and the expiration. Now, during quiet breathing, nervous impulses are travel from the respiratory centers in the brain to the inspiratory muscles to cause their contraction, which are the external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. While in case of quiet breathing, during expiration, no nerve impulses travel from the respiratory center in the brainstem to the muscles of either the inspiration or the expiration. So, the inspiratory signals will also stop, and this will cause the external intercostal muscles to and the diaphragm to relax. Now, during inspiration, due to contraction of these muscles, the ribs are pulled upward and outward, and sternum as well, while in case of the expiration, the movement of the ribs and the sternum is in opposite, that they move downward and inward. The diaphragm, when it contracts, it is flattened and vertical dimension is increased, while when diaphragm relaxes during expiration, it becomes more dome shaped, causing a decrease in the vertical dimension of the thoracic cavity. During inspiration, the lung volume is increased, and during expiration, the volume of the lungs is decreased. During inspiration, there is a decrease in the intra-alveolar pressure as compared to the atmospheric pressure, while during expiration, there is increase in the intra-alveolar pressure as compared to the atmospheric pressure. Here the air rushes in during inspiration, it rushes into the lungs, and during expiration, the air is forced out of the lungs, and the lung volume will the lungs are going to deflate. So with this we have finished today's topic, which were the muscles of respiration and the mechanism of respiration, and we have talked the inspiration and the expiration in detail. I hope you will understand the lecture, and if you have any query, you are free to ask questions. Now, the last thing that we are going to discuss are the questions from the topics that we have covered. Now, these are the important questions that can come from these topics that we have covered up till now. So, these are different questions. What are the functions of upper respiratory tract? In the first lecture, we talked in detail about the functions of the upper respiratory tract. Then in the past papers, there has been a question that enumerate the functions of nose. Another important question, define alveolar pressure. How does it vary during normal breathing? Then define pleural pressure. Give its variation during respiration. What is its significance? Then how does inspiration occur? In this, you are going to write about the mechanism of inspiration, both the quiet inspiration and the forceful inspiration, because in here it is not mentioned that which type of inspiration. So you are going to talk about the both quiet inspiration and the forceful inspiration. Now next question is, outline the mechanism of expiration with the help of flow chart. We have also discussed it in today's lecture, and this is the last question, that a person is sitting in a chair and reading a book. Give mechanism of inspiration in this person. Now here one mechanism is specifically asked, and what is that mechanism? That is mechanism of quiet inspiration, because person is in a restful state, sitting in a chair, not doing an exercise. So you will talk in detail about the inspiration during quiet breathing. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for your listening. And if again I'm saying that if you have any question, you are free to ask me. Thank you so much.